To create a new PM in KeepTrack, create Click New. Then select from the catalog drop-downs and sublevels what the PM will be for. As your catalog gets bigger, it will be faster to use the Catalog Quick Pick to filter to the item rather than use the Catalog Site and sublevel drop-downs. Just click the Catalog Quick Pick at the top box. Just start typing in a few characters of the item you want the PM for. If you have your equipment numbered in the catalog, it will be useful to start typing in that number. The list will filter as you type. As soon as you see the item you want, click on it and KeepTrack will fit in all the blanks for you. Use PM. This is a very useful feature if you already have a PM made for a piece of equipment and want to essentially duplicate it. For example, if you had 20 HVAC air handlers, you could make the first PM, save it, remember the PM ID, then you could select that ID from this dropdown, and KeepTrack will fill in most of the blanks with data from the original PM. This is a huge time saver when you have multiple pieces of similar equipment. Then you can modify the catalog site sublevel drop-downs for the new piece of equipment, make any other changes unique to that piece of equipment, enter the last completed date, and voila, you have just made another PM. Frequency. This is where you select the repeat of the PM. We have everything from hours, miles, and cycles based to calendar based, starting at 1 time per day and going out to once every 10 years. Just select the frequency you would like this PM to be repeated. Most PMs that are calendar-based, when completed, will then look at that frequency and the last completed date and calculate the next due date for you automatically. Special details about some of the frequencies. Day of week. This is the day of the week that you would like that PM to repeat. Suppose you had a PM you wanted to do on Tuesday, but for some reason you could not complete it until Thursday. If you use the 1 time per week frequency, the PM will start becoming due on Thursday until you complete it at a different date. You might prefer to have it repeat on Tuesdays irregardless of when it was completed. In this case, use day of week and it will always come due on that particular day of the week. Down farther, we have date of month. This is for PMs you want to have repeat on a specific date of the month. So no matter what date you complete it, it will repeat on that date of the month. Down farther, we have specific dates. This is where you can select specific dates of the year to do a PM. For instance, you might want to adjust the lights in the parking lot to come on and off at a certain time, and you want to adjust it to 2 specific dates of the year. This is the PM for you. Or if you have PMs you only need to do in the summer or winter, then this is the one to use. At the bottom, we have hold. This is for a PM you do not want to show up as due. For example, you have sold a piece of equipment, so you no longer need to do the PM. But you want to keep the PM in its history for reference and cost and hours history for your facility. Also, you may have a piece of equipment that is not in service right now. Just put the PM on hold, and later, when you put it back in service, just come into KeepTrack and change the frequency back to whatever you like, and the PM will start reappearing at that proper time. Assign to and craft title. This is where you can select who the PM is assigned to, or some companies like to use title craft instead. For example, you have a PM you want to assign to Susan. She has been to classes and is certified to work on that piece of equipment. Other times you may just want to assign the PM to a craft or title, like maintenance or electrician. Shift. Some companies run 24 hours a day and need to have PMs for specific shifts. PM info. This is where you put information about a PM. If you want to have a title for the PM, just start the text, the very first character, with a left bracket, type in the title, and end it with a right bracket. For example, weekly fluid check, daily safety checklist, and so on. You can also put in tags of your choosing, like ISO audit, SQF inspection, safety. Have as many tags on any PM as you need. This way later in reports you can filter to these tags. For example, suppose you have an audit coming up for ISO next week. You could search for all the PMs in reports for the tag ISO audit and find all the PMs related to the ISO audit. This way you can make sure they are all up to date. This field is also useful for notes like tools you may need or special instructions. Note there is a small drop-down box attached above the PM info box. This is a drop-down phrase that you may use for over and over items to save you typing time. We put some sample phrase ideas in for you. You can easily add your own. Just type in the small box the phrase you want and click enter on your keyboard. You will get a pop-up message telling you that this is not on the list and asking you if you would like to add it. Just select yes. Now, anytime you're building a PM, you want to save time, just click the drop-down and select the phrase you want to add to the PM in the box. If you want to remove any items from the drop-down list, you can do that in Administration. PM Action. This is where you will enter what you want done on a PM. You can have as little or as much information as you like. It might be one step, change oil, or it could be listed as 50 steps, describing in detail all the steps you want to do to change that oil. You can always come back and edit these later. Note, there is a small drop-down box attached above the PM Action box. This is a drop-down for phrases you may use over and over to save you typing time. We put some sample phrase ideas in for you. You can easily add your own. Just type in the small box the phrase you want to add and click enter on your keyboard. Now, anytime you're building a PM and want to save typing time, just click the drop-down and select the phrase you want to add to the PM info box. If you want to remove any items from the drop-down list, you can do that in Administration. Completed date. Here you put the date the PM was last completed. If the PM is calendar-based, KeepTrack will look at the frequency you selected up above and calculate the next due date for you. If the PM is based on hours, miles, or cycles, then you will need to also enter the last completed reading and the repeats every, so that you know the repeat for that particular PM. PMs also have where you can put in the estimated number of people and the time that they would spend to do this PM. This can be pulled up later in a report so you can project labor and manning needs for the future. PM cost. This is an optional field you can use to put in the estimated cost of a PM. Very useful for a PM where you contract out the work. This can also be pulled up in a report so that you can project future PM costs. Range, which will appear after you save the PM, is the number of days a PM ages before the status changes from due to overdue and from overdue to urgent. This number is set automatically when you create a PM based on the days between the repeat. You can manually change it for any PM in the PM Edit section. Once you have everything the way you want it, then click Save New PM. Thank you for choosing KeepTrack. We're here to help, and your feedback is appreciated. If you have any questions or comments about the video tutorial or KeepTrack software, please feel free to call or email us.